Hello. I thought it might be fun to go through the American Film Institute's top 100 films list, talk about what I've seen, what I haven't, what I agree with, what I take issue with. The problem is, this is like the third or fourth time I've tried to record this. I was just going on for way too long. Like, somehow I underestimated how long it would take to talk about 100 movies, even briefly. So I've made the executive decision, going to split this into two parts, do the first 50 today, and then the second 50, I don't know, tomorrow probably at some point. Um, and that being said, let's get into it with Citizen Kane, which I have seen a few times. For a long time, it was the like de facto critics' pick for the best movie of all time. I've never really seen why, but it is a great movie. I just don't see why it's the greatest movie of all time. But I mean, it's it got a great script by Orson Welles and Herman J. Mankiewicz. It's gorgeous cinematography by Greg Toland. I mean, great acting by everybody in it. Orson Welles, Joseph Cotten, Everett Sloan. The editing is super cool, especially for the time with the whole non-linear thing and the really cool framing devices and whatnot. Yeah, I mean it's a great movie. And if you're worried about watching it because it's like an old movie about a newspaper magnate and you think that might be boring, I don't find it boring. I enjoy it quite a bit. Number two is The Godfather. I mean, it's The Godfather. It's going to be here. It deserves to be here. Both Citizen Kane and The Godfather are near perfect movies just in terms of execution. There isn't much you would change about them, certainly. And I also feel that way about Casablanca, which, let me just say, disclaimer wise, that I think that looking at art from a purely objective viewpoint is impossible. Like some critics claim they can do that, but they can't. I mean, it's not something that you can, artistic merit isn't something you can, measure with a ruler or type into a calculator. So, that being said, if somebody forced me to, like, try to objectively pick the best movie of all time, I would probably say Casablanca. And then hopefully they would leave me alone. But, this is one of the best scripts ever. And, it's it's a movie. It's less virtuosic than Citizen Kane and The Godfather. They don't get in the way of the narrative. Like everything is executed very well. The acting in it's wonderful. It's very well shot, very well scored. But no element like try. It's all in service of this story and the romance and all of that. Nobody's doing a crazy flashy work. It's all just top level, super solid work with one of the most gorgeous scripts around. Raging Bull, incredible, obviously. Scorsese. Um, One of De Niro's very best performances, if not his best. Uh, the fact that it lost Best Picture to Ordinary People, which is also a really good movie, is insane. Singing in the Rain. I'm very picky about musicals, but I do love Singing in the Rain. It's one of my favorites. It's a great anti-Hollywood movie. Really funny supporting performance by Jean Hagen. I'm really happy she got the Oscar nomination for that. Gone with the Wind has not aged the best, probably, but I still think it's a pretty wonderful movie, just in terms of just a filmmaking achievement. Like it looks gorgeous. The score by Max Steiner is like huge. Great performances by Clark Gable, Vivian Lee, Olivia de Havilland, Hattie McDaniel. Plus, I have a soft spot for it because there was this fish restaurant in my hometown where they had some real good fish, and they had a sign out front that said, "Frankly, scallop, I don't give a clam." So, pleasant associations. Um, Number seven, Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, it's good. It's Lawrence of Arabia. I'm not gonna, tomorrow when I get off work, I'm not gonna be like, I'm just gonna kick back and relax with a little Lawrence of Arabia. You got to be in the right mood for it. But if you want to watch a man wander around the desert for 75 hours, Lawrence of Arabia is a great choice. And it also has the single greatest edit of all time, where he blows out the match and then it cuts to that desert vista. Can't beat that. And Coates did the editing on that. Schindler's List. If you haven't seen Schindler's List, you might think it's like Oscar bait. It's like a black and white World War II movie biopic. It's really not Oscar bait. It's a very personal movie. It comes from a place of like real pain. It's very sincere, and it's just a wonderful film in pretty much every way. Um, I will say Ray Fiennes in this movie, one of the greatest villains in any movie ever, I would say, and I do really think he should have gotten Best Supporting Actor for it that year. But he's a great actor, but he's never topped that performance in my eyes. And then you have Vertigo. Vertigo is absolutely top tier Hitchcock, incredible. And it's my favorite Jimmy Stewart performance. And what's so cool about that performance and that character is he starts out as a really likable, heroic figure, and then he transitions from a hero to a villain over the course of the movie, and it's so seamless. You just totally go with it and buy into it. And it really shows Jimmy Stewart's range as an actor more than any other part he ever played. And the movie matches him. It starts out as kind of this nice kind of psychological thriller, and then mystery kind of deal, and then as it goes on, it just becomes increasingly odd and kind of deranged. And it's a hell of a movie. Wizard of Oz, I used to be really cynical about and be like, oh, it's too sentimental and corny. The Wizard of Oz is nice. I like the Wizard of Oz. I like the flying monkeys. City Lights, great early Chaplin movie, very sweet movie, very romantic. Some real tragedy in there too. It's a very gorgeous movie. The Searchers. I'm not going to check. That's the first one I'm not going to check because, well, I have seen most of it on television, I do believe. I have not sat down and watched it from beginning to end. What I saw, I wasn't, super impressed with, but I'm sure that once I sit down and I give it a proper viewing, uh, I'm sure I'll get what all the hype is about. And maybe I will update you all if I do. Star Wars. I've seen fucking Star Wars. Psycho, as a Hitchcock fan, if you haven't seen Psycho, what are you doing? Like Anthony Perkins, incredible. 2001 Space Odyssey. I will say, amazing movie. All the stuff with Hal is incredible. All the stuff with like the light tunnel and the space baby and the monolith and all of that stuff is fantastic. I will say, I don't think I've ever watched this movie without falling asleep at some point. And that might I would say that might make you lose respect for me, but you probably don't have respect for me at this point, right? I haven't like established myself as someone who commands respect, you know. But I digress. But yeah, I would say there are just parts of that movie that are super slow. They're too slow for me, anyway, for me to enjoy them. Uh, but there are other parts of it that are like transcendent and incredible. So for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but the highs of it are like astronomically high. Sunset Boulevard, amazing. Billy Wilder, incredible performances by Gloria Swanson and Eric von Stroheim. Um, Another great anti-Hollywood movie. The Graduate, one of the great film scripts of all time. Mike Nichols, amazing debut film. Um, that's not his debut film. This is his debut film. Well, that's an amazing 1-2 punch right there. I mean, those are definitely the best first two. I'm gonna shut up. We got The General with Buster Keaton, which I have not seen. I'm sure I will love it. I got to get around to it. I feel bad. On the Waterfront. On the Waterfront is incredible. Is probably Brando's second best performance after Streetcar. Eva Marie Saint, her debut performance, amazing film debut. Lee J. Cobb, always a great bad guy. And is just beautifully shot and innovative for the time. And it's great, despite the fact that it was basically Elia Kazan justifying turning a bunch of his friends into the House of Un-American Activities Committee, and Joseph McCarthy and all that. But what can you do? It's a Wonderful Life. This is another movie that I used to think was like way too corny and cheesy, and now I've come to really enjoy it. And that part near the end where he almost loses the will to live and he sees what life would be like without him is really powerful. Chinatown, incredible script by Robert Town, and just a beautifully executed movie. Um, I will say, though, the whole cast is great. Jack Nicholson's great. Faye Dunaway is great. The highlight for me is John Huston, who's known primarily as a director. He has a couple movies on here, but his performance in this, he plays the villain in it, and he's just so repulsive. Like you can barely look at him. It's an incredible performance. Some Like It Hot, another great Billy Wilder movie, definitely more overtly comedic. A lot of fun. Grapes of Wrath, I saw when I was a lot younger, but I remember it pretty well. I remember thinking Keith Carradine and Jane Darwell were great in it. E.T., incredible. I mean, masterpiece level Spielberg, one of his absolute best. Just, the sound design in it. I still remember getting super freaked out as a kid by that scene in the cornfield where Elliot discovers E.T. and they're both screaming. Um, and yeah, just it's the editing in it is so wonderful. John Williams' score, obviously. To Kill a Mockingbird, I think one of the most successful film adaptations of all time. In that, To Kill a Mockingbird, is like one of the best novels ever written, and this film matches it in quality, beat for beat. I think. So that probably also means it's one of the best films ever made. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Haven't watched it. Been on my list forever. I feel bad. Frank Capra. High Noon. Really cool movie. Um, it plays with Western tropes in a really interesting way. That the male characters in these your hero leads in these westerns are always these people who like these super macho guys who like kill really dispassionately. And in this, it's about a guy who he has to have a gunfight, but he's afraid, and he loves his wife. He doesn't want to leave her without a husband, and he's just like, maybe I should just leave town. Maybe I should. Maybe it's best for me not to risk getting shot, which is very interesting. Great music by Dmitry Tiomkin. 28 All About Eve. I have not seen All About Eve. It's one of the ones I feel worst about. I gotta watch that soon. Double Indemnity, incredible noir. Once again, another Billy Wilder movie. Amazing performance by Barbara Stanwyck. My favorite Billy Wilder movie, I believe. Apocalypse Now has some sequences that are kind of dated and weird, but it also has some stuff that's just incredible, especially, the Kilgore stuff with Robert Duvall. I think, a lot of people think that's the highlight of the movie. I agree. Um, I will say, watch the original cut. I don't recommend watching Redux. It adds some okay stuff, but it also adds this super boring part where they go to like meet up with these French people in the jungle, and this one French lady has an affair with Willard, and she just keeps saying, "There are two of you, don't you see? One that kills and one that loves," like 15 times, and I didn't like it. Um, Maltese Falcon, one of the best noirs of all time, and it's insane as a debut film. It was John Huston's debut. I don't know how that happened. I should look into that, but ridiculous for a first project. I know he did do some screenwriting in Hollywood before that, though. So there's that. Godfather Part 2. I agree with this placement. It's a great movie, obviously, but I definitely prefer the first one. I think Godfather Part 2 is a little bloated. At this point, I'm like so invested in the story of Michael that I care a little less about the Robert De Niro, Don Corleone stuff. Though it's good on its own, it's good independently. Both are good independently, but together, it's like it's a little much for me. I don't watch it that often for that reason. But I will say, I mean, still incredible. And John Cazale as Fredo, I think, is a standout for me. John Cazale is a very special actor. He's the only actor where every theatrically released film he put out got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. You can't say that about anybody else, like not even close. And I would say his performance in Dog Day Afternoon is absolute best. Absolutely wonderful performance, wonderful actor. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, beautifully acted film, and also just a crazy good adaptation. Because I did read the book a while ago, and I was very surprised how like radically different the book is from the film, and they both have different prose, but I just think it's very impressive the way they adapted it and kind of smoothed out the narrative and made it a little more conventional while still making it really interesting. Um, and I'm most thankful for this movie for getting Brad Dourif his only Oscar notice. It was Brad Dourif is like maybe the most underrated actor on the planet. You got to watch Exorcist 3 especially. Oh my god. Um, but yeah, I appreciate that they at least gave him some notice one year, even if it should have happened several more times. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's good. It's historically important. I'm not watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs all the time, but it's good. Annie Hall is great. It's a great movie. It's kind of hard to watch Woody Allen movies these days, but Annie Hall is still wonderful. It's got that super iconic performance by Diane Keaton, and it's got that amazing cameo by Chris Walken, which is like one of my favorite scenes ever. Um, and yeah, a lot of people are upset that it beat Star Wars for Best Picture that year, and I'm not really. I mean, I definitely think George Lucas should have gotten director over Woody Allen. But in terms of Annie Hall winning Best Picture, I'm fine with it. I think it's justified. It's a great movie. Bridge on the River Kwai, I haven't seen for several years. I would like to watch it again, but I do remember enjoying it. It's a nice, epic war film with Alec Guinness in it. I remember liking it quite a bit. Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It's another John Huston movie. Incredible. Probably his best movie. Probably Humphrey Bogart's best performance ever. Also a great performance by Walter Huston, which is John's father. And like super iconic stuff with like the Banditos and stuff. It's a movie that's been kind of memed over the years, but it's just because it's so memorable. Doctor Strangelove, incredible movie, very atypical movie in Kubrick's filmography. He never made anything else this like overtly comedic, but at the same time, it's very funny, but it's also really horrifying. Um, Amazing triple performance by Peter Sellers playing three different characters. Great supporting performances by people like Sterling Hayden and Slim Pickens. Just such a wonderful movie. Definitely my favorite movie of 1964. And not my favorite movie of 1965 is The Sound of Music, which is my least favorite movie on this list so far. It's just, there's only so much yodeling to the Lonely Goat that I can take, you know. And Christopher Plummer agrees with me. Actually, it's fun to watch him make fun of the movie and his performance in it, even though I think he's one of the better things about the film. King Kong, they've tried to reboot it so many times with Peter Jackson, with the Jeff Bridges version in the 70s, with the MonsterVerse stuff, and just nothing beats the original. It's such a charming movie. Bonnie and Clyde, fantastic, amazing ensemble cast. Michael J. Pollard and Estelle Parsons, um, wonderful in it. Gene Hackman, very early Gene Hackman part, he's really good. Faye Dunaway is very good in it. And I will say Warren Beatty, he has like this odd sort of energy to him in the part that I really like. And I don't even know if it was something he was doing on purpose or something that he just naturally brought to it, but there's something really off about him in a really fascinating way, and I really like that. Really like that performance. Midnight Cowboy, I just saw a couple years ago for the first time, and it was incredible. It's very darkly funny, but also incredibly sad. And amazing performances by John Voight, and especially by Dustin Hoffman. Like, it's so crazy to watch Midnight Cowboy and then to compare Dustin Hoffman to like his performance in like The Graduate. It's like there's like no similarity at all. There's like not even a trace of one character in the other. It's crazy. And they were only a couple of years apart. Philadelphia Story. It's like a fun, love triangle kind of screwball comedy. I saw that one recently for the first time. It's fun. Shane, iconic western. It's got Jack Palance as the villain. He's really good. It's beautiful cinematography. He's got that little kid going, Shane, come back. Which is great. Yeah, big fan of Shane. It Happened One Night, early romantic comedy by Frank Capra with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. Really fun movie. Streetcar Named Desire, I previously mentioned my favorite Brando performance. I don't think that's controversial. And I think this is one of the few films, along with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, where it could have won all four acting categories at the Oscars and been justified. Fully justified. Rear Window, one of my absolute favorite Hitchcock movies. One of his coolest movies from a filmmaking perspective. Really creepy performance by Raymond Burr. I love it. Intolerance, I've never seen. I've actually never seen a D.W. Griffith movie. Um, and I'll be honest, maybe I never will. I mean, maybe I'll get around to it. We'll see. But I'm not holding my breath. And finally, we got Fellowship of the Ring, which I was really happy to see because I figured they would go with Return of the King. But I actually prefer Fellowship. It's my favorite of the trilogy. So I was surprised and happy to see that they included that one. Okay, so we've done the first 50 movies. And out of those, it's going to reload here. We'll see. So out of the first 50, I have seen 45. All right, so not bad. Not bad numbers. Definitely got to watch The Searchers soon. Definitely got to watch All About Eve soon. And yeah, stay tuned for part 2, I guess. See you soon. Bye.